Listen, it's not often I can pair this t-shirt up with a game, so I already consider this a win. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Septima from Mindclash Games, although more first impressions than review. This is an active or upcoming Kickstarter, depending on when you're watching this, and I'll have a link to that in the description down below, and everything you see here is prototype, rules, components, all those stuff, subject to change, prototype, all the usual prototype warnings. Septima is a game about managing your witch coven. You're going to be managing your coven across 4 rounds of play as you're mindful of the round track up here and the season track up here as you wander around trying to take actions with your witches, with your coven, in order to get as much wisdom as possible, to get as many points as possible. There's a whole lot of things happening, but for the most part, the general cycle of play is your witches are doing their thing, they're managing, they're trying to match with other witches. We'll come back to it more shortly. Then from there, you're trying to be mindful of the fact that at the end of every round, there's going to be a witch trial on other witches in the game. The villagers are restless, they're a little wary. The things you've done throughout the course of the game have an effect on how wary they are, and you have to be mindful because the witch hunters have the opportunity to capture your witches if you raise suspicion and, well, don't manage that suspicion well. So you're going through that across 4 rounds of play. Take actions, pair up, figure out your sequencing, heal the townsfolk, doing a whole lot of things to be mindful of the different ways you can gain as much wisdom as possible by the end of the game. There's going to be things you can do in-game, there's going to be a bunch of points you can do here, there's going to be tracks you can move up, there's going to be your own private divination card that will give you a bunch of points, and you're rinsing and repeating the cycle, trying to keep your own witches out of trouble, trying to help save the other witches out there on trial, possibly adding to your coven, across 4 rounds of play, and then seeing who won the game. That's the high level. There's a lot of things going on here. I will not be able to cover absolutely all of it. There's a lot of little details going back and forth, as you might expect from a Mindclash game. This is, by the way, this is supposed to be a slightly more accessible Mindclash game compared to some of their others. I haven't played their others yet, so I can't comment on that comparative basis, just that's what I believe is supposed to be the case. So, let's go into it a bit more detail, a bit more of a detail of what the actual round looks like. Once again, we're going to have the round track up here. We're going to be moving this little marker around as you go. Every round's going to have those 5 turns, so you're going to be taking 5 turns every round. You're going to be doing that across 4 seasons over here, and you're going to be following this track over here across each of those 5 turns, so you have all the sequences, everything you need, printed on the board available to you. The sequence you play through every single turn is going to be grabbing your hand of cards over here. You're going to have your hand of cards. And let's watch this over here. So what you're going to be doing over here, let's move this off to the side, a little witch board off to the side. Strictly speaking, we'll have some cards here. I just have them over here right now. But you're going to be revealing the Septima token, which is going to show you the current Septima bonus that will be rewarded. This is a terrible first one, but it's relevant, so we'll keep it there. You can reveal the Septima bonus. You're going to move off a new Septima bonus. Then you're going to choose a card. You're going to choose 1 card from your hand of cards. This hand over here that gives you a variety of actions, 9 actions, 10 if you're playing with one of the expansion modules, 9 actions you can take that will affect the way you're trying to build yourself up in Septima, the things you're trying to do. And doing that first round of play, there's a bit more of a, I would say, scripted options as far as the different pathways that make sense, but that will continue to branch and diverge as you're walking into each round with things already happening on the board. So you're going to go ahead and choose one of these cards over here. You're going to choose a card. Then everyone's going to go ahead and reveal their card. That's a terrible first card. I shouldn't do that one. Let's go ahead and just do this one. This is a fairly standard first card, although not the only one by any means. Then from there, you're going to go ahead and be mindful of the fact you're going to be able to move 1 before resolving your card. Every turn before resolving your card, you can move 1, then resolve your card. And this is where you will have a possible matching bonus at the same time. You see, during the course of the game, you're going to have this matching bonus, this collective bonus, when other players all take the same action as you. In other words, you have these 9 actions, all these actions you can take, but then there's a variety of matching bonus you can have, where if other players play the same bonus as you, you'll both get that bonus, although you'll also raise your suspicion. Now, this is something that can happen because it just happened to happen. It's something that can happen because you're paying attention to the right track and what players might want to do, or it's something that can happen because you literally just sit there and cooperate with other players, and yes, sometimes lie to those players. From there, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and raise suspicion on this board over here. You have your suspicion, which starts over here, and you'll be moving it up the track as you go, which will affect how many hostile citizens there are. In general, those collective actions, and this shouldn't be here, in general, those collective actions will result in you getting a bonus, but it also results in your suspicion slowly going up, and that is doubly true when matching with the Septima. You always have the opportunity to match with the Septima over here, but that's going to raise your suspicion by 2. It's a guaranteed match, but it's also a guaranteed amount of distrust amongst the citizens. From there, when you're done with that over here, let's go back to this track over here. You're going to go ahead and you raise your suspicion. So you're going to move up the right track and then raise your suspicion. Meaning the first thing you do if you match is you'll move up the right track if you match the type. So for example, if purple moved over here, purple can move onto this symbol because they went ahead and played that. They can pop up there, and the right track is going to be responsible for some points at the end, but a variety of bonus gaining and refreshing some of these cards over here as you go through as you move up that right track slowly but surely. And there are other ways to move up it in addition to just matching, but that's one way over there. Then you'll go ahead and you'll gain your suspicion. Then you'll go ahead and check if there's a witch hunter in your zone. If there's a witch hunter in your zone, at this point you'll go ahead and you'll roll the witch hunter die and see if those witch hunters are trying to track you down. You're basically going to add your current suspicion, which early in the game starts off fairly light, but as the game progresses it can move all the way up to 8 on this track. You're going to add to that this number over here, and you're going to see how far the witch hunters wander outside their little huts to capture you. So in this case, again, let's pretend over here. Let's pretend we are over here right now, for example, and let's pretend that, we have this witch hunter. You're going to look in the specific zone of each witch hunter. They're going to count out. Currently my suspicion is 0. Let's say I moved it up, so it's 1, and then we're going to add to that 3, and that means the witch hunter can go 1, 2, 3, which is not far enough to capture us, so we're currently safe. Had we been over here, a 3 would have been enough to capture us. This die has values 1s, -1, +1, +2, 0, and a guaranteed sleep, which means no matter how far the suspicion is, you are safe no matter what. Now, being caught by a witch hunter is not the end of the world. It just means that your particular witch is on trial, and you may or may not permanently lose their ability depending on how that trial goes. So it's not great to be captured, not the end of the world, and you will reduce your suspicion a little bit as you go through it. So again, not the end of the world. We have this, not good either, but not the end of the world. So we're going to have that over here. And then finally, if there isn't a witch hunter in your zone, which can happen, especially as the game begins when there's only 3 witch hunters to begin with, you're going to go ahead and you're going to move witch hunters to your zone. So had I been over here, for example, there's no witch hunter currently in my zone, so we would move the closest witch hunter over to my zone where I have to be a little bit more mindful. Obviously, I can dance out of it next zone, but that means you're constantly playing this game of trying to be on your toes, trying to take the actions you want while avoiding the suspicion of the witch hunters. And that's the sequence. You're going to go through that sequence every single round 5 times. You're going to play from your standard 9 cards, 5 cards, before at the end of the round they all come back to you, and that's basically a sequence in, well, Septima. Past that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to move this around as you go, then you'll rotate the season, you're going to do that 4 times, and that's basically the game, although I'm leaving out a very vital part of it, which is at the end of 5 turns, you're going to engage in a trial. The way the trial works in Septima is you're going to have your crowd of citizens over here, which you'll have the opportunity through some of your cards to add citizens to that crowd. Then you're going to add all the current citizens to a bag, in addition to a bunch of starting citizens that will be in play, both hostile and neutral. You're going to add the citizens to the trial track, and you're going to hope that the number of loyal citizens of a player's color, are more than the number of hostile citizens that are, well, hostile and don't like us, and you're going to hope that that overwhelms the number. You want a positive number. Neutral citizens just clog up the track and don't add any value. You're going to go to your specific player count, you're going to add up the numbers, and hopefully you successfully, well, save the witch. If you do so, you're going to go ahead, every player is going to get 2 points to wisdom for every one of their loyal citizens, and they'll add that, the leader will add that witch to their coven. Alternatively, if you failed, you'll get 1 point per loyal citizen, and, well, that witch is not really around anymore. And that's high level overview as far as what you're doing in this game. I'll go through the actions, I'll talk about a few other aspects, and then we'll dive into the review. So, let's go through the action cards, starting off with Collect. Collect is going to give you the opportunity to gather lunar ingredients from adjacent hexes. Basically, you're going to look at where the track is here, you're going to decide which 2 ingredients are currently in favor, and you're going to gather that from the surrounding hexes as you play this. Then there's a bonus which you can take an additional ingredient that's non-lunar at the same time if you match. Heal, let's go to Brew first. Brew will give you the opportunity to brew 3 potions, and if you collectively match, you'll have the opportunity to replace an ingredient with another one. Potions have a variety of effects. We have these ability potions, which will give you points when you brew them, but also have an ability on them. And then we have these potions over here, which are meant to heal specific types of patients in the town. We're wandering around the fields, the huts, all that stuff. We're trying to be mindful of the town. Which brings us to Heal, which heals the next action. Once you've brewed potions, you can heal adjacent patients at the same time. You can move your witch hunters together, and then go ahead and heal patients, trying to get the bonuses and move up your respective track, which is a huge part of the game. Healing patients over here, if you can manage to do it enough frequently, you'll be moving up this track over here, which will both get you bonuses, advance your right marker, lower your suspicion, add a loyal citizen, various bonuses as you go up this track, but also you'll get points for every single marker. If you get to the top of a track, you'll get 25 points. But that's not everything, because if you get a few markers to the second row, you get 4 points for each one, and you also get 7 points for each full row you've completed. So that'd be 14 bonus points in addition to the 12. That's again a chunk of points. So everything you do on this track is going to give you in-game benefits plus end-game points. You want to be very mindful of healing patients in the game. From there, we're going to go to the next card. Next card is going to be Transfigure. Transfigure is, well, let's come back to this later. That's going to be one of the expansion module. We have Plea, put a citizen from the crowd into any trial chamber. You can manipulate the crowd, looking at the crowd, and say, hey, I'm orange. I want to go ahead and move an orange directly to the trial chamber to guarantee a position over there and not rely on the bag alone. We have Remember, which allows you to perform the ability of a card you already used. It can be very helpful for doubling down a strategy, such as healing patients, brewing potions, all that. Chant is going to lower your suspicion by 1, and when you match, you don't raise suspicion, contrary to normal. Rather, you lower your suspicion by an additional 1. So chanting can be very collaborative because everyone wants to lower their suspicion. Move allows you to move 4 spaces with a collective bonus of grabbing an ingredient along the way. Recruit adds loyal citizens to the crowd, 1 or 2 depending on if you match. And Rite gives you a guaranteed spot up the right track, which is helpful for those various bonuses, and also allowing you to refresh a charm or gain an ingredient. Which brings us to the charms. The charms are going to be these cards over here that will be in play, well, underneath over here. And these charms are going to give you, well, just abilities. They're going to give you abilities, you can utilize them and then tap them. And various things will give you the opportunity to untap those charms to bring them back into play and utilize them again. It's basically powers and abilities, which is always a fun thing. And that's basically Septima. That's basically all the things going on. I'm trying to think of anything else I'm missing. There's witch abilities. That's a big deal over there. The witches all have a variety of abilities on them. So for example, over here, I have 2 starting abilities. I have that whenever I have a loyal citizen in the trial chamber, I can go ahead and reduce my suspicion. So Dragomir is helpful for making sure that my suspicion stays in check. But then I have Eustace over here, who whenever I recruit, I can also twice spend that herb to add a person to the trial chamber. So you can combo the abilities of your coven leader and your apprentice in order to get extra abilities there. Other witches you add to the coven won't help you with their abilities, although they could be useful for the endgame scoring and all of that. And then from there we have the modules. There are 2 modules that come out the gate in Septima, at least in the prototype that I have. There's going to be the various animals you can transfigure to, these tokens over here, where you can replace your witch with a specific animal in play, and that changes up the way you get your cards back as well. When you play your transfigure, you're going to have the ability to replace your pawn with your animal form, which will help you with suspicion while also limiting the abilities you have. So it's a pro and a con in terms of the way you can manage different things in the game. And then you also have the omens. The omens is going to be the other module you have, where depending on how the trials go, you're going to, if they're successful or not, you're going to have different effects that will be in play. So another reason to be mindful of, well, how the trials will go and what their impact on the game will be. And that is basically Septima. That's most of the stuff going on here. I think I'm not missing things, but there's a lot to cover, a lot of interactions. Oh, the Book of Divinations. I knew I was missing something. Book of Divinations will be a scoring card that you'll get at the beginning of the game that gives you your own way of scoring in the game. Specific ways you'll get extra points for specific achievements or specific things you've done across the course of the game. And that is finally, I think, Septima. So let's talk about this game. Let's starting off with, well, again, reminder, prototype, all those things. Starting off with ease of play, which off the bat is not the best. Now I am dealing with prototype rules, factor that in, but the rules are a lot to get through, a lot to cover here. Mindclash games are notorious for being a lot in terms of mentally grokking everything, mentally understanding everything. And while I think the core gameplay loop is actually fairly basic, fairly ordered. Order's the wrong term. I think the basic gameplay loop is fairly clean. The basic idea of you have 5 actions a turn, each action has a strict cycle, it's all printed on the board, all that is very easy to follow. The way everything interacts and a lot of edge case questions that weren't necessarily as clear to me from the rules, again, prototype rules. For me, the big issue though is going to be iconography. There's a ton of iconography in the game, iconography that even for that most of the things are printed in the rules, it's just a lot to understand and it takes several games to start getting a feeling for that. But additionally, I think some of the icons, especially on the divination cards, aren't fully 100% clear, even with their icon guides. There is a section in the prototype rules that makes it seem like those are going to be added, so I do believe all these things will be added, but there's a lot of icons to begin with, and that's made a little worse by just the nature of diving into a prototype where not everything is completely finished. So ease of play is not the worst, but certainly not the best either. As far as player count, this is a 1 to 4 player game. I've only had the chance to play this one at 3 players so far, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because I have some specific concerns about the 3 player count, and I would have loved to get more plays at other player counts to see how those feel at other player counts. So we'll dive into that more in terms of things I don't like. Speaking of which, as far as things I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off the bat with the fact that there's multiple pathways forward as far as sequencing. There are patterns you can get into, and patterns are a good and bad part of this game. Patterns are good because understanding what other player players are going for, both based on the right track over here, as well as just based on what's happening on the board, where they are, where the moon track is, the last cards they played. Understanding all of that gives you the ability to kind of predictively predict which cards they're going to play and to get those matching bonuses or deny them depending on what you're good at. If you're good at lowering your suspicion, it's not the worst to try to make sure that the suspicion track goes up and you get those extra bonuses because you can compensate for it by lowering it. Versus if they aren't, they may find themselves on their toes the entire game as they avoid the witch hunters. And those patterns come from the fact that these cards have a variety of ways that they kind of chain and sequence. You might go for collect, then brew, then heal patients. But you can also break that up at any point by adding people to the crowd, by going ahead and moving up the right track. There's all these ways you can break some of the established patterns, and those established patterns become less established as you get other things, as you use your abilities, as you move up your patient healing track, as you move up the not really right track, but as you get these cards over here and utilize them. There's a variety of things you can do across the course of the game that will break those patterns and help you achieve, well, just figuring out which 5 cards you want to play every single round as you figure out the best way to win, as how to get wisdom, the healing of the patients, the managing and the dominating of the trials as you go through it. There's a whole bunch of things you can do with these cards, and the matching bonuses are both a good thing, but again, with the suspicion, are also a bad thing. They have the whole powers and abilities left, right, and center in this game. All the witches have abilities, and comboing those abilities is tremendously satisfying. You're going to start the game by grabbing some witches and choosing 2, although we have said that we kind of want to draft them. We haven't yet, but we kind of want to, because you can combo abilities in ways that are tremendously satisfying. You can find witches that pair together and utilize their abilities, and then combo that with all these cards, all these charm cards. They have their own host of abilities, and using those as well is again tremendously satisfying to find a combination that works. What are you good at? Are you healing patients? How are you doing so? Do you have a charm that will help you move with the right track? Do you have a charm that will help you heal those patients? How do you combo everything together? There's also these buildings. We didn't talk about these, but there's building specifically as well in the game that you can utilize to help you as well with certain actions, which will be put out in these building spaces. And so there's just a ton of powers and abilities between the patient bonuses as you move the tracks, your actual powers, your divination cards, your witches, your potions themselves. There's a lot of ways you can break the core flow and try to just figure out this cascades into that, move that up the track, get all those things taken care of. A lot of things like that in Septima. And it provides a backup, a lot of ways to mitigate that suspicion, a lot of ways to try to figure out which cards you're going to play to drop your suspicion to match with the Septima when you don't have a chance otherwise, because matching the Septima is good and bad. It guarantees you that bonus. It doesn't even give it to another player, but also it comes with the cost of 2 suspicion. So if you can manage that, if you can mitigate that, again, same idea. The game gives you all these tools and all these pathways, and it's up to you to figure out how you want to do that. And then we just have a lot of variety to the experience as well. You have variable scoring cards. All those give you giant chunks of points for different things you're going to do in the game. We have variable starting resources. We didn't really talk about that, but the way those work over here is you're going to have starting resources. You're going to be dealt a few of these cards. You're going to be trying to pair up the top, bottom, and middle of these cards. And you're going to take 3 of the top thing, 2 of the bottom, 2 of the middle, and 1 of the bottom. But that means the way you pair up cards will absolutely change what you're getting more or less of in this game. So you're going to have that for your starting bonuses. That's going to give you another thing, and there's a lot of general just variety between the cards, the powers, the charms, everything you're doing in this game. As far as what I don't like, and then the trials, by the way. The trials are a lot of fun as well. Pulling them from the bag, loading up the bag, figuring out how to manipulate these engines over here and get as many points as possible. As far as what I don't like, there are a few things as well. First of all, the matching card play is a good thing and a bad thing, and this is where I have concerns specifically around the 3-player count. But the matching card play can be tremendously satisfying, especially in my opinion, as you engage in more and more table talk. My first game of Septima, I didn't engage in any table talk at all as far as the card play. I just sat there and played my cards. I eyed the right track, I tried to keep an eye on the board position, tried to predict, but I didn't really engage in any table talk around what we're going to do. I found table talk added a degree of collaborativeness, but also a degree of Scrooge, which can be tremendously satisfying. The idea that I'm like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, we both want to move up over here on the right track, we both like to move up there, so yeah, let's go ahead and both chant together. And then you don't. And then you do something else entirely because you didn't care. You can't do that all the time because players won't trust you, but doing it at the right time can really mess over another player. There's a degree of trust in the game. The table talk really added to the experience for me, talking out both when working together as well as when betraying your friends. I like that a lot. This is all in the section I don't like though, so what am I talking about over here? At the same time, I found in a 3-player game, you do have the potential problem, where 2 players can start matching on a few things, especially if they're following a certain sequence, and if you didn't line up in that sequence, if they started the collect, brew, heal sequence at the same time, and you're a step behind, you might just not have the option to match effectively for the entire round, and it can really hurt you, because while matching every time can be a bad thing, matching not at all can be just as bad. Sure, you don't attract the suspicion of the various witch guards around the board, the witch hunters, but at the same time, that's not everything, and managing your suspicion is something you could do in the game. So there's a lot of downside of being the odd man out once other players develop and start building out on a pattern. This is where I think that a 4-player game would potentially change that, or even a 2-player game, but I don't know. But I'll say that, yeah, the 3-player experience, I've actually had that happen where you fall out of tempo with other players, and it just doesn't give you the same reward if you fall out of tempo with others. Secondly, is what I talked about already in ease of play. The iconography barrier is large in this game. It's not overcomable, but there's a lot going on, and it easily didn't take me until my second play before I had to stop checking things up on a regular basis. It's not bad iconography, to be very clear. It's really not. It's pretty clean. There's just a lot of it, and a lot of it just is what it is. And then lastly, I'll say that the right track. The right track over here, I'm not in love with the right track. I mean, I like the concept of it. I like the concept of moving up, getting bonuses, all of that. And it's another thing to be mindful of and manage, which could be rewarding. The downside of it is it takes away some of the agency or freedom as to how you're playing your cards and what sequencing. Being tempted to match with other players and move up specific bonuses, it's nice because it gives other players a bit of a taste of you're more likely to play X or Y, but it also limits the degree of the way I might want to play my engine, and now I'm following the right track to get those additional bonuses. So I felt that kind of pushed you down certain lanes, both for better and for worse. As far as I can see others not liking, first of all, missteps in your sequencing are just punishing. If you plan a sequence, if you go through a set of cards, you have your 5 actions, what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, you misstep, you don't get that matching bonus when you're relying it, or any of those things happen, it can be punishing. The core sequence here is important. You're going to sit there and you're going to plan out, okay, these are the 5 things I'm going to do, this is the order I'm going to do it in, maybe you're thinking of your entire turn, maybe you're thinking of 3 turns ahead. Regardless of which one it is, missteps in the sequence can be punishing. Not getting those patients healed. If you plan on healing patients and the patients are gone by the time you heal them, that can absolutely mess you up, especially if you're relying on the various bonuses that you're going to get from healing those patients. And so it's a constant struggle and a balance is trying to make sure that you are planning appropriately, but you just might get hit with things along the way. And secondly, there's absolutely luck in the witch hunters and the bag building. The witch hunters, because of the fact they're going to be rolling dice, and that roll might affect the difference between a +2 and a -1, or nothing happening at all. Relying on the statistical odds of a +2 not coming up, because it's only one side of the die, may result in your witch being captured. That will happen, and so that's a factor you want to be mindful of as you take those risks. And then also there's the bag building. The crowd's going to have this bag building element, which at the end of the day, in a game that is otherwise fairly so tactical in the various things you're doing, to have your entire plan just fall apart because of the bag building at the end, it's not the end of the world, it's not the most points, but it definitely does add up. That can be a little frustrating at the same time. As far as first impressions on Septima, and I'm calling this first impressions specifically because this is a Mindclash game, and I really feel this needs more plays for me to develop a firmer opinion on it. I like Septima, but I'm not in love with Septima. I think from a purely mechanical stance, everything it's doing works really, really well for me. From a purely mechanical stance, it's solid. Everything chains. Everything works. Everything's cascading off one another. You have bonuses. You're playing cards. You're taking those benefits in 3 different areas. You have your general card. You have your card play. You're working towards a progression. You're healing patients. You're getting bonuses. You're moving up the right track. You're getting bonuses. Everything in Septima has a lot of the things that I typically tend to like about this type of game. But also, I don't yet have a firm picture on some of the things I don't love and how those things affect my experience. I like Septima, I enjoy the process, but I'm not in love with Septima. It is a solid game, it has all those things, and I feel bad because I can't compare it to other Mindclash experiences. I don't know whether, I can compare it a bit to Lacerda experiences. It has that degree of comparison and daisy chaining, and I love, the one Lacerda I've played, but I just don't know where this one lines up in Mindclash's catalog. It does a lot of things right for me, and yet doesn't give me any moments of, wow, that was absolutely incredible. There are fun moments. There are times where you get that extra potion. You move up to the 25 points on your healing patients track. You get those 2 abilities. You turn around and you trigger a charm, and you get that extra bonus, and you're using your coven leader and your apprentice's bonuses, and all those things can be pretty satisfying. But they never gave me a moment of, look at how much I had going. I found the tension of playing cards, trying to match with others, had both pros and cons in it. And this is a core mechanic of the game. The whole matching cards with other players is a core mechanic of this game, and I don't think I loved that mechanic. I think I appreciated aspects of it without loving it. So for me, Septima is one where I can both strongly appreciate what this game is doing. I think it's incredibly well designed. I think it has a lot of interweaving things, a lot of things that work really well together, but also it doesn't yet excite me. For me right now, this is a 3.5 out of 5, although again, I feel I need more plays. I feel like I need to dive into this more to get more of a feeling for the way everything weaves together. It is a good experience, an enjoyable experience, and I think that if you like Mindclash games, this is likely, I don't know for sure, but this is likely a game you'll enjoy. It's clearly well designed. I think I just don't love the primary core mechanic. I'm only okay with it, and that really colors my overall perception. So I like it. I think it's a good game. I'm not in love with it at the same time. And that's basically Septima. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, I mentioned already a Lacerda game, Lisboa. This definitely gave me the same strategic feel of playing a Lisboa game, of trying to think through how my actions are going to interact with 14 different things in different ways to get the specific end goals I want in 15 different arenas. It absolutely had that feeling for me. And then secondly is Concordia. Concordia is a game where if you like the process of playing through a hand of cards and then picking them back up and figuring out what to do in the right sequencing and daisy chaining your actions, I'm going to do this so I can do that, then this, and follow it with that. If you like that principle, lots of games do it. Concordia is going to be one of my favorite games that has that mechanic in play. Not the card matching mechanic, to be clear, but the general daisy chaining of cards, playing them one after the other before you get them back. And that is basically everything. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.